set, hut, hut.
As the hills of West Virginia resound with the sounds of Golden Blue football.
Almost heaven, West Virginia.
Now let's bring on the Mountaineers. Goes around about the 50 to 10 to 5. A touchdown, West Virginia. He did it.
He did it. Patrick White. Touchdown, Tay Von Austin.
But Don Nehlen's Mountaineers enjoy walking in where angels fear to tread.
I think you think that these guys are going to fall over dead for you. Well, I got news for you. They're going to punch you right in the mouth. It's Mountaineer pride.
Nothing cheap, nothing dirty, but West Virginia football. West Virginia football.
We've no doubt tonight they shouldn't have played the old Golden Blue. Not this night.
They've done it. They've done it. A perfect season. And the Mountaineers, for the first time in history, undefeated and untied.
Don Nehlen and his Mountaineers, for the second time, have finished a regular season with an unblemished mark.
Ain't no stopping the Golden Blue.
It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be. What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome back into another live stream here on the Country Roads webcast, June 1st edition. Welcome to the month of June, and we got to get to some WVU football recruiting updates for the 2026 class. I think it's fitting, obviously, with the summer holding the camp season, get a lot of these, not only 2026 recruits, but really 2027, 2028 recruits. And we'll talk about some guys that'll be visiting during those summer camps here throughout the stream. But really what I want to talk about is, yet again, as we've talked about on, previous live streams, multiple guys that have West Virginia as one of their finalists there in the top of their list. And a lot of these guys are some of the top recruits in the 2026 class. Got an update on one of the prospects we talked about previously as he set a commitment date. So a lot of fun 2026 WVU football recruiting updates to talk about. That'll kind of be the crux of the show here throughout this one. But in addition to that, I finally want to take a second and talk about the throwback uniforms a little bit that West Virginia will be unveiling this season. The anniversary of the 1965 team, and they're unveiling throwback uniforms. First full throwback set WVU football has worn, if I'm not mistaken, and I haven't really taken a second to talk about those. So I figured why not here, the summer months are kind of the dull, in news for a period there until we get around to getting closer to fall camp. We will have roster updates coming soon as some of the new players have enrolled, but no better time than now to talk about these uniforms a little bit. And I want to highlight the great work of the team that designed the uniforms, as the media team has put out a great video highlighting that. So we'll showcase that throughout. And then just as an appetizer, before we get to all that, how about some college football 26 WVU news? Because the Mountaineers are featured on the cover of the video game. And we do have some news in regards to our coach on the game as well. So we'll get to that momentarily. But before we hit on all of those topics I just detailed, I want to remind you guys that are watching live here, whether on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. If you're watching on Facebook or Twitch, we appreciate you. But be sure to come over to the Country Roads Webcast YouTube channel, subscribe here. That way you can stay up to date on not only these recruiting updates, but transfer portal updates, roster updates, all kinds of fun stuff that we put out in pre-recorded format in podcast episodes here on the YouTube side. Which, speaking of that YouTube side, if you're watching live or after the fact on a playback, you can help us out by hitting the thumbs up button. That helps us out with the YouTube algorithm. If you're in here live, throw any questions, comments you got there in the chat. I'll try and hit some of those before we wrap up the stream. But if you're watching after the fact, you can throw them in the comment section and I'll respond there when I can. Always appreciate those interactions as well. So with that being said, let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit here about our little teaser. Let's talk about the College Football 26 video game. And of course, I will provide you guys some updates here on this channel about West Virginia in the College Football 26 video game. But if you're someone that cares a lot about it, I'm going to post the link to my college football gaming channel there in the chat there for you guys that are watching live, and it'll be in the video description for you guys watching after the fact. You guys listen on the audio side, be sure to rate the show there. We appreciate that. But come over to the Country Roads Webcast YouTube channel, and you can get the link to the JCCFB YouTube channel where I cover the college football video game. But with that being said, news has started to come out for it, and one of those was the cover We got multiple ways West Virginia was featured involving college football 26, actually, that I want to touch on really quickly. This was the background for the standard edition cover. Now, a little caveat here, when they made the actual cover, they had to cut it off like right around here. So I think it cuts off right before you can get to the start of the Flying WVU. You can see West Virginia's logo ever so slightly on it. And the steelbook for the game is actually this back cover here with these team flags. That's what makes up the steelbook. But this is a standard edition cover. At least West Virginia did have a place on it there. See us in the top right. And then featured more prominently, though, and even better, I think, is West Virginia on the deluxe edition cover, which I don't have the full screen image of that cover pulled up, but I do have an image that I cropped to put out on social media when I saw this. As you see here, I put that out, which you follow me on social media if you want, at WVU Country Roads there on X. But you can see here on the College Football 26 Deluxe Edition cover, right below the 6, we got a West Virginia fan holding the flag with the flying WV on it. So featured on both covers for the College Football 26 video game are the Mountaineers. And not only that, but we made the trailer as well. Now, my only negative point of that was it had us in the backyard brawl against Pitt, and it has their quarterback stretching out for a touchdown on us, which I'm like, okay, that's got to dock you some points on your trailer there, having Pitt score on West Virginia. But all in all, I do like that at least we were in the trailer. I think I have a screenshot of it somewhere here. Let's see if I can find that. Thought I pulled that up. Yeah, here it is. Which WVU Sports was putting out on social media. They said he's down at the 2, and here in the screenshot that they took, it looks like his knee is down right here. When I broke down the trailer frame by frame on my college football channel, I thought it looked like he was in, but I didn't, see it here, because in the next frame it looks like he's stretching out with that knee up. But there is the screenshot of WVU from the College Football 26 trailer there, where they made it in the brief shot there of the backyard brawl. So hey, WVU makes a trailer with the backyard brawl, makes the trailer for the video game. That's pretty cool. But, those of us that played College Football 25 know that something wasn't featured on there that will be featured on College Football 26, and that is that they have the real-life coaches in the game, and that means someone that wasn't featured on College Football 25 for WVU that will be featured on College Football 26, Coach Rich Rodriguez is going to be in the game, as WVU Football tweeted out here on social media, Rich Rod in College Football 26. So just a fun little WVU adjacent update for fans of the college football video game there, just to kind of wet our whistle, get us a little appetizer here for this show. Now that we've talked about that, let's dive in here a little bit. Let's talk about these recruiting updates and these camp updates for West Virginia here as we continue here throughout these summer months. I'll take a swig of my coffee really quickly, then we'll get to some of these recruiting updates. All right. So let's talk about each one of these. First up, let's go ahead and talk about Jet Goldsberry really quickly, because you guys know in the previous stream we covered him. 2026 4-star athlete, really talented guy, plays quarterback and defensive back in high school, believed to be playing defensive back, or at least that's what West Virginia is targeting for. We know West Virginia was one of his finalists, but he's announced his commitment date. And this is interesting on multiple fronts. We'll talk about it here. He's going to be committing July 7th at 5:30 p.m. at his high school auditorium there. And here he is on the right. And we know that West Virginia was in the Final Five with other schools being UNC, Ole Miss, Wake Forest, Rutgers, and Purdue. But he's sharing the commitment day with one of his teammates, which I didn't even know West Virginia was recruiting one of his teammates as well. And that is Tyler Ruxer, who is a tight end, I do believe. West Virginia in the finalist for him as well, along with Northwestern, Minnesota, Oklahoma, Duke, and Purdue. So interesting that the only school that they both share is West Virginia, and they both share Purdue. So if they're wanting to go play at the same place, maybe that's the two schools we should look out for. But a couple recruits at West Virginia is after in that 2026 class, both committing on July 7th. We've talked about Jet Goldsberry, but we haven't talked about Ruxer. So let's pull him up, because I was pleasantly surprised when I saw his profile here from Heritage Hills, the school that they are at there in Indiana. He's a 6'4", 220-pound tight end. But look at this rating for him. One of the top players in the entire state, number 3 in the composite 247 ranking, number 2 in the regular there. So a top 2 or 3 player in the state, however way you shake it out, and a top 25 tight end in the country nearly there, with a high rated 3-star with 88 grade there on 247. As we see West Virginia in the mix for him, which is nice to see, as he is going to be committing on the same day there as Jet Goldsberry. So we'll keep an eye on both of those guys indeed. And you guys heard me rave about Goldsberry on a previous stream, and I am excited about him. So a lot of these 2026 recruits to talk about. Let's talk about one here that I think is really interesting that West Virginia may be in the mix for, and that is Noah Tischendorf. And this one's interesting because you see he's scheduled a visit for June 6th through June 8th. A lot of these visits, we've talked about in the past. Visits coming up, I think, this week and next week, I think are kind of where it kicks off for the Mountaineers here with a lot of these 2026 guys coming in. So hopefully we'll start to get some commits and we'll be able to do some commitment videos here in the near future. But Noah Tischendorf is one that's interesting because not only is he a very talented, high-ranking prospect in this 2026 class, but he's also one West Virginia is trying to flip. He actually committed to Oregon State back in, I want to say March, I think. I'll pull up the 247 profile here and we'll get the exact date on that. But West Virginia is working on him. He's got an official visit upcoming next week. So maybe we can get some positive news on him, who is a very talented edge rusher in this class. As we see, 6'3", 240 pounds. And yes, it was back in March. On March 10th, he committed to Oregon State, actually. So recruitment's still open. Apparently he's taking other visits, and maybe West Virginia can sway him when we get him to Morgantown. But look at this talent, 6'3", 240 pounds. And in the state of Oregon, he is one of the top 5 players in the state if you look at the composite score, but at least a top 10 player when you look at the overall score there. 85 grade 3-star, top 100 edge rusher in this class. So, you're looking at, when you look at who we just talked about with Goldsberry, the tight end in Ruxer, and now Noah Tischendorf, who West Virginia is trying to flip, all top players in their state. So West Virginia really going after some big fish in this 2026 recruiting class, and I think they're going after some really talented players here. A couple more of those to talk about, and I got to shout out my friend Matthew, Mountaineers Headline there on social media, who helps me keep up with some of these guys once they name West Virginia a finalist, both in the portal and in the high school recruiting ranks. So another one here is a junior college prospect West Virginia's after in that 2026 class. And this one's narrowed down even further as West Virginia's in the top 4 for the defensive back here, Aaron Edwards, which if we look here on Rivals, 6'3", 200-pound safety. I think the Mountaineers have a good shot at landing the junior college prospect here who's currently playing at Northeastern Oklahoma A&M there in Oklahoma. So there's a junior college defensive back West Virginia is a finalist for, and I think we can maybe even put on commitment watch because I like what, some of the competition West Virginia is up against there. I like West Virginia's chances if he wants to go play big time, power conference football. And then last, but certainly not least, as far as the 2026 recruits that have West Virginia as a finalist, how about Deron Parks? A really big offensive lineman, not only in how he's rated, but also in his size. Of course, he would help West Virginia up front immensely. And West Virginia's in the top 12, and just look at the other schools that he's being recruited by. For me, that's how I always like to try and judge these recruits, more so than star rating and things like that. Even so, I think is where do they rank in their state is one thing I like to take a look at. And also the main thing is who else is going after them. Are other big name schools after them? If so, this is probably someone that's going to be really talented and be, someone that could be not necessarily a program changing player, but someone that could come in and help you. If not right away, then probably pretty early. So that's what I think you're looking at with Deron Parks. When you look at his top 12, West Virginia's on the list with Florida State, Oregon, Nebraska, Ole Miss, Kentucky, Rutgers, Oklahoma, Auburn, Georgia, Ohio State, and Penn State there for his top 12. And we'll pull up his 247 page here to talk a little bit more about him here as we highlight some of these guys that West Virginia's finalists for. Then we'll talk about some guys that are coming to these camps over the next few weeks for the Mountaineers. But Deron Parks, like I said, literally big at 6'5", 350 pounds coming out of high school. That's a guy that's ready-made to potentially get early playing time. Also coming out of Florida, we know how talented offensive linemen are there. Listed as an interior offensive lineman, which you would kind of expect with that stature and frame there. 88 grade, which is a very high-ranking 3-star. That's bordering on 4-star territory. Top 60 player in the 247 rankings in Florida and a top 50 player in the state of Florida on the 247 composite, which, as I just said, that's one of the things I like to look at. Who else is going after him? We see other really big name programs going after him. We look at where they rank in the state, and being the top 50 player in the state of Florida is really, really good guys. We know Florida has some of the more talented football players. We've had a lot of them come through WVU in the past. And, this would be one that we would love to get here in Duron Parks, who also rates as nearly a top 20 interior offensive lineman in the entire 2026 class. So as I said, and I'll say again, West Virginia going after some really talented players in this 2026 class. And not only are they going after them, they're very much in the mix and close to landing some of these guys in the near future, maybe. So excited about that. But as we talk about the summer here and as recruiting heats up for this 2026 class, which I should probably pull it up and let you guys have an update on where West Virginia's 2026 class stands as far as commitments go, since we're going to be talking about it here. Let me go ahead and do that really quickly here. And in the 2026 class for the Mountaineers, we do have multiple commitments already in tow as we talk about some other talented ones that the Mountaineers are after. But we have tight end Sam Hamilton out of Ohio committed, running back Jet Walker out of Texas committed, who's maybe my favorite commit that we have thus far in this class. You guys have heard me rave about him in the past. We've watched his film in a previous stream. Go back, watch his commitment video to check it out. 6'2", 215 pounds, and extremely explosive for that size. And he's someone I think is going to shoot up the recruiting ranks throughout this process, if you're asking me. Then we have one of our quarterbacks that we're going after here that we've already got committed, and that's Jaron Hughley out of Florida. We talked about those Florida players. West Virginia already has 2 committed, and I think West Virginia is still expected to add another quarterback in this class, and we got our fingers crossed, hoping that it's Legend Bay, who we talked about in a previous stream. But for now, we have Hughley committed at the quarterback spot. Couple of defensive backs here. Emery Snyder out of Oklahoma, 6'4", 205 pounds, and Taj Powell out of Ohio, 6'3", 200 pounds, brother of Jonathan Powell, previous WVU basketball player who now is going to be playing for UNC. But you see the length there, rangy defensive backs committed, and then a really talented linebacker nicknamed Bam Bam. So that shows you how he hits people, and he's a tackling machine. Linebacker Cam Dwyer, also out of Florida. Those are the 2026 commits West Virginia has thus far. So not only are we have guys narrowing down their list, but we got guys that are going to be coming to camps for WVU. Mainly more future guys, a lot of 2027 and 2028 recruits here, but there are some 2027 recruits listed. And I got to shout out Jeff Cobb on social media because people had asked me in the past previously about guys that would be camping at WVU. And I was, getting ready to get a list together, and I was doing some research, and I saw, hey, wait a minute. Jeff Cobb on social media here on X has already put a list together as he says prospect names continue to trickle in as WVU prepares for its first summer fall camp tomorrow, which of course is today, June 1st, and then one next Friday on June 6th. And he said, follow his account there on social media to keep up with this. So if you want to know more of these camp names, but I will try and share them here and recognize Jeff Cobb, who's doing a good job keeping up with it, as I'll try and do the same myself here. But the camp dates, of course, not interested in the youth camp necessarily here for recruiting purposes, but the specialist camp, June 18th. The one-day camps is what we're kind of talking about and highlighting here. Those are today, June 6th, June 18th, and June 20th. Then you have 7-on-7 and big man camps on June 11th and June 13th. So all throughout this month's camps for WVU, and some guys that'll be in there. A couple 2027 quarterbacks in Will Taprani out of Pittsburgh, and then Gideon Marab out of Riverside High School in South Carolina. A couple of 2027 athletes, Jeremiah Whitley out of Birmingham Grove in Michigan, Kendall Franklin out of Belleville High School in Michigan. 2026 athletes, so here is a 2026 recruit that'll be camping. So we'll keep an eye on Lucius Murray, an athlete out of Georgia. A couple of running backs here in the 2027 class, Christian Freeman out of Raleigh, North Carolina, and Jalen Cox out of Stafford, Virginia. So these 2027 class guys are guys that are going to be going into their junior season, as the guys that are 2026 guys will be going into their senior season this upcoming year in 2025. 2027 receiver Giante Morris out of Michigan as well. 2028 tight end, so that's someone that'll be going into their sophomore season, so a really young guy here just wrapping up the freshman season. Liam Ludwig, a tight end out of Pittsburgh, he'll be at the camp. And then a 2027 tight end Jaden Elston out of Ohio will be at the camp. Here's another 2026 prospect to keep an eye on, and it's another offensive lineman, Lamarian Thompson out of Charleston, South Carolina at Fort Dorchester High School. A couple 2028 prospects here, and on the offensive line, and Nick Anderson from Pennsylvania and Jack O'Neill from West Virginia and Washington High School there. 2029 prospect, and on the offensive line, and Gabriel Gonzalez out of Knoxville. 2028 defensive lineman Noah Frazier will be camping as well. He's out of Pennsylvania. Here we get another 2026 prospect. I think there's a couple more here. One of those being Henry Russell, a defensive lineman out of Pennsylvania. A 2028 linebacker, Luke Stinnett out of Pittsburgh. 2026, here's the other 2026 prospect, and that's linebacker Braden Anderson out of Pennsylvania as well. And then a 2028 linebacker, also out of Pennsylvania, Caden Seymour will be at the camp. And then 2027 defensive backs that'll be at these upcoming camps. Demon Scott, a defensive back from Florida. Morgan Williams, a cornerback from Georgia. And Devon Dallas, a safety from Ohio. So know someone had asked previously, and there's an update on some players that'll be attending these upcoming camps for West Virginia here throughout the month of June, as we also have some highly talented prospects that are going to be making decisions soon with West Virginia in their final group there. So hopefully they make good decisions and choose WVU right here. That's what we're hoping for, is hoping for that type of good decision. But if you guys want to make good decisions personally, you guys know there's no better way to help you do that than with Magic Mind. You guys know I talk about it a ton here, been a great friend of the Country Roads webcast and a great product that I've loved utilizing myself. And you guys know, yes, it's an energy shot. It's a mental performance shot. So it's more than just an energy shot, really. But also you can use it in addition with your daily caffeine. You guys know I love my coffee, can still utilize my Magic Mind. And when you're talking about in terms of focus and also, focus without anxiety, kind of that clean focus, as I like to call it here. It helps me editing videos. It helps me stay focused when, studying, taking notes for future videos and projects and things like that, man. And nothing's really ever helped me be able to do that on a higher level than Magic Mind, which is the mental performance shot you could add to your daily routine, get you focused, mentally clear, motivated, and productive, all while reducing stress. It'll get you over 100% of your daily vitamin C and D in each bottle. It has that time-released caffeine that not only helps you when you first take the mental performance shot, but throughout the day, the Magic Mind will continue to benefit you. And not only does it benefit you, but it benefits others as they donate 5 cents of each bottle sold to mental health charities throughout the U.S. It's 100% carbon neutral and also no risk, 100% money back if you don't like it within 100 days of your purchase. But I guarantee you're going to love it, and you're going to love it even more because you can get a discount on Magic Mind from us here at the Country Roads webcast. Just head to magicmind.com/CRWAPR. Go hit the code CRWAPR at checkout, and you get 48% off a subscription or 20% off a one-time purchase if you just want to give Magic Mind a try, and your mind's going to thank you for it. I guarantee you that. This mental performance shot is special stuff, guys. So be sure to check out Magic Mind. Go to magicmind.com/CRWAPR and use that code CRWAPR at checkout for your discount. Appreciate the good folks over at Magic Mind. And with that being said, guys, that wraps us up with our recruiting update here on this live stream. Now I want to talk a little bit about those throwback uniforms. But before I do that, I'm going to take a swig of my coffee. Then we'll hit on those throwback uniforms before we wrap up with catching up on some of your all's comments there in the chat. All right. So as you can see here, I'll share some pics. I shared a couple of them in the thumbnail. I'm sure you guys have seen these already. But, I just wanted to wait to talk about these because I knew there would be a better time to talk about them when we didn't have so much transfer portal activity and everything that was ongoing throughout, the months of April and May. But, of course, we saw West Virginia unveiling the throwback uniforms that they're going to debut for some game this upcoming season. Don't know which one, which honor the 1965 team. As you see 1965 there on the plate on the helmet. They're the helmet that they wore. That's the uniform that they wore, of course, with the old gold. And I'm excited about it just simply because it's something different that West Virginia hasn't done. I love alternate uniforms. Of course, you can tell by the Cold Rush helmet behind me and all of that good stuff. And I love that, it's something West Virginia is adapted to more. And I think you got to credit Ren Baker for that, whether it was the Country Roads uniforms, whether it's now having the Cold Rush as an alternate, or, or just doing something fun every season. Maybe they're going to do throwback every season, or just some fun alternate uniform for every season, in addition to having the Cold Rush now as an alternate, which I'm a uniform guy. I like that type of stuff. I know some people could care less, and that's fine too. That's why, I only try and hit on it a little bit in the live streams every now and again and have a brief segment talking about it. But nonetheless, it's something I care about and I like, and I'm excited to have these throwbacks. And hopefully, we talked about College Football 26 earlier. Hopefully these uniforms are featured on that video game as well. So wanted to highlight that. And I think that when you talk about those uniforms, whether it was the Country Roads, the Cold Rush, or now these throwbacks, you got to highlight the creators of these uniforms. And Kristen Cold Snow is one that helps design those. Of course, Ren Baker is the kind of the key cog. We know that it was his tweet way back, a couple years ago. We referenced it when it happened, that this could be a possibility of him looking at that 1965 helmet and wanting to maybe, bring it back. And not only do they do that, but I think the full throwback uniform. And Kristen Cold Snow helps design this. And I think a lot of times that's one thing that helps bring people around to these uniforms that they're maybe lukewarm on, is when you find out a little bit about what went into the design process, why they did things the way they did, and you really learn a little bit more about the history of the uniform. I think it helps you have a better appreciation for it. And I think the WVU media team does a great job of highlighting that with these videos kind of about the story of the design and the return of the 1965 uniforms as they've done for other previous uniforms. So let's check this out here from the WVU media team.
I was on the phone, and I usually like to walk and talk, and I'd left just to come in here by myself and was looking around, and I caught this helmet behind my shoulder here, and I was like, I've never seen that logo before with the light shade of blue. And so I actually took a picture of it and tweeted it. Then fans just started reacting to it.
Yeah, so this was very different than our other alternative uniforms. With the other alt unis, we got to take a lot of ownership in the process, and there was a lot of storytelling involved. Country Roads, there's a lot of built-in brand equity with that concept. The coal rush, it was something the fans really wanted. Created something that I feel like really represents the coal miners and the blue-collar people well. It was more of a apples to apples reproduction. We did choose to stay authentic to the original design by not including the flying WV or any type of mark, because one, the flying WV was not in existence back then, and two, we wanted to remain authentic to the design, so we didn't put the helmet decal on it. We decided against that.
I do think you're always looking for ways to engage fans, but also I think it's really important to try and find ways to honor your past. You have the old gold, which our fans love. You have the state outline, which our fans love. You have the throwback WV cascading there, WVU. What I had never seen before in any pictures or anything anywhere was that, whether you call it turquoise or baby blue.
And we didn't want to go full on modern with the crisp outline that you see kind of at half court on our basketball court, right? We wanted to find a nice happy medium so that it was still a little bit modernized, but true to form of the old style, and something that's going to reproduce well for apparel. And you look at it and it's in state outline instead of kind of like, ooh, what's behind that WVU, right? Reminding
people of great eras and great memories from the past is really important, and those Jerry West uniforms certainly do that. I'm hopeful that that this will remind some of our older fans. 1965, that was 60 years ago, but there will be people in the stands that were there to watch that team. Some of those former players, hopefully will be able to come back.
All right, so pretty sweet. And yeah, the thing that got me maybe the most excited is what she said towards the end there, talking about the apparel, because I'm definitely going to get that. You guys can tell I like the logo. I don't know if the camera picked, but I even have it as the background on my phone right now. Is that sweet logo, which at WVU football dropped some wallpapers. I think that's where I got that one from. But yeah, I like it. I like the baby blue mixed in with it. It's just something different. And then that way, you can wear some baby blue stuff with your WVU stuff if you get some apparel with that. So I like it overall. And more than anything, I think it's nice for recruits and for the players to have just kind of not know what's coming, because now they've shown that they're going to do something interesting. We've had a different, alternate uniform for 4 seasons in a row now, right? This will be the 4th season in a row, because you go back, 2 years ago, you had the Country Roads away uniforms, or 3 years ago. Then 2 years ago, you had the Country Roads home uniforms. And then last year you had the Coal Rush, which of course, Coal Rush, I think, is going to be a permanent alternate now. So you always have that, but now you're going to get a throwback game this year as well. So you like that. And it adds to new game promotions as well, which is always fun. So excited about that. And I liked the video that kind of gave the behind the scenes stuff there, and the kind of look into the design process and all of those good highlights. And of course, it does sound like merch is coming with that, baby blue WV outline and the cascading WV and U there. So excited about that. And then the last thing I had, then I'll get some of your all's comments before we wrap this one up. Of course, you guys may have saw me talk about this on social media. I'm sure you've heard others talk about it, but I did want to highlight it here that the game times have been announced for West Virginia's non-conference schedule and for that Friday night contest where they got to travel to Provo to play BYU. So if you haven't heard, West Virginia's first 3 games of the season here. Robert Morris, Bobby Moe to open the season on August 30th. It's going to be a 2:00 p.m. kick on ESPN+. Then we'll go on the road to take on Ohio. The Bobcats there in Athens, Ohio, is going to be a 4:00 p.m. kick on ESPNU on September 6th. And then when we play Pitt in Morgantown, they have to come to Morgantown, of course. And I know some people were really disappointed in this, but I still want to highlight on a couple of things here that I think is interesting with this. It is a 3:30 game. And of course, we know the date. We know the 9/13 date, and it will be on ESPN, the main ESPN channel, which is nice to get that main branding there. And I think a few things here. Obviously, we all wanted the night game. That is disappointing. I'm not going to say that it's not, but I do think the atmosphere is still going to be awesome. It's still going to be unbelievable atmosphere for that football game. But I've also heard some people say they think this means no game day. But I do think, maybe, 10 or 15 years ago, it was the case that any game that was the college game day game got that 8:00 ABC/ESPN kickoff time. But anymore, that's not the case. They've shown that they'll go to game day for a game that kicks at 3:30 just as well as a game that kicks at night. So this definitely doesn't rule us out. And the fact that it's on the main ESPN channel, I think maybe still gives us hope that there's a chance of game day. We'll see what happens. But either way, I think the atmosphere is going to be unbelievable for that game. Wish it was a night game. But also, I think when you look at it now in hindsight, I don't know if it was necessarily in the contract or whatever for the series, but it seems like everything had to be equal and match up for this series, right? Because when you look at back the first game, when West Virginia played at Pitt, it was a night game. So then when they came back to Morgantown the next time, it was a night game. We played Pitt last year. It was an afternoon game. So now when we come back to Morgantown, it's an afternoon game again. Maybe we couldn't have a night game because they didn't get to have a night game, or they would have whined and cried, which is possible. But, nonetheless, I know people are upset it's not a night game. I would have preferred a night game as well. But I think at least it's not noon. It's 3:30. Get a little bit of, later kick there, and the atmosphere will still be one to behold, I think. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Love that it's on main ESPN. And, hey, let's not rule out college game day just yet either. I think we got a shot. We'll see what happens. But then the other one that does suck, maybe even worse than Pitt not being a night game, is not only having to go on the road and play BYU is going to be a tough team, but we're going to have to, take a nap at some point that Friday, hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, because that is a 10:30 p.m. kick on October 3rd for West Virginia, that Friday night contest, which will also be on ESPN there when West Virginia goes and takes on BYU. So some scheduling times and networks announced for the first 3 games for West Virginia's non-conference schedule, and then, of course, the game against BYU. But that's what I had, guys. Just wanted to highlight the little bit of West Virginia and college football 26 news. Mainly wanted to give you guys a nice recruiting update on some really high-rated 2026 prospects that West Virginia has a good chance to land. Maybe at least 1 or 2 of those, including one that has a commitment date set, an update on the upcoming camps here that are taking place over the next couple of weeks, and then a little scheduling note for you guys. Other than that, I'm going to get some of your all's comments, and we'll wrap this one up. Appreciate you guys that watch this live, whether on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. If you watched on Facebook or Twitch, be sure to come over to the YouTube channel here, subscribe so you can get the pre-recorded videos and podcast episodes in addition to these live streams. But those of you that are on YouTube, whether you watch live or out in the playback, you can help us out by hitting that thumbs up button. Helps out with that crazy YouTube algorithm, helps this find more Mountaineer fans like yourself. And if you are one of those that hasn't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on future WVU football recruiting updates, transfer portal updates, roster updates, and all of that good stuff here as we get set for the Rich Rod 2.0 era here on the Country Roads webcast. And I appreciate you guys that through your thoughts here live. I'll get to those couple comments here momentarily, but those of you guys that watch it on the playback and throw yours in the comments after the fact, appreciate those interactions as well as we continue to try and grow the CRW community throughout Mountaineer Nation. That being said, got my guy Matthew here saying that's how it should be since Rich Rod is back. Load up the Brinks truck and get some of these guys. Hey, that's right, Matthew. And shout out to my guy Matthew who helps me keep up with some of these recruiting updates. And sounds like West Virginia is doing a good job really going after some talented prospects in this 2026 class. We hit on the ones that I like that are committed already. And, of course, those ones that West Virginia is in the top final lists for there are some really big name players as well. So I think we're going to be excited to see how this turns out, not only with the 2026 class, but definitely moving forward, if the success comes like we're hoping it does in the Rich Rod 2.0 era, then you're really going to even get even bigger names. Let's not forget the last time we were last time he was here, we got the likes of, Jason Gwaltney, who I know his career didn't pan out the best, but that was one of the highest rated recruits we ever landed. And then Noel Devine, who is still one of the highest rated recruits we ever landed, and on down the list. And not to mention, of course, the great job he does finding the diamonds in the rough as well. So really excited to see some of these recruits. And that's why it's always nice to watch the film once they commit. And that's why you get an underrated guy right now like Jet Walker. Just got to hope we can keep him committed if he does skyrocket up those recruiting ranks like I think he will there in this 2026 class. But appreciate you, Matthew, as I appreciate my guy Eric Flowers, who says, let's go Mountaineers. And man, that is an awesome picture there for your picture that you got going on there on YouTube, Eric. That's sweet. Got the Rich Rod, man. I like that. Larry Westfall also says, let's go Mountaineers. Appreciate you, Larry Westfall. And yes, Matthew, perfect. Before we wrap it up, so shout out baseball, by the way. Definitely can't forget to do that. Just took down Clemson the night before I did this live stream in a crazy game. Didn't get a chance to watch it. I was at work, but listened to all of that game. West Virginia started off, really hot, up 4-0. Clemson came back, went up 5-4. West Virginia made it 5-5. Then in the top of the ninth with 2 outs, West Virginia went on a crazy run by, loading the bases, then getting, hit by pitchers and walks, and goes up 9-5. Clemson adds one more run, loads the bases, makes you a little bit nervous, and then West Virginia makes a pitching change, closes the thing out. West Virginia goes on to the regional final. They'll play this evening, the night that I'm doing this stream here on June 1st. I'll have to wait and see who they play. But, whoever they do play, if they win, they're going to be the champion. If not, they'll have to play them again on Monday because they'll have to beat West Virginia twice because West Virginia is undefeated, has a great shot to win this region and go on to a super regional yet again. So shout out to the WVU baseball team. The end of the regular season wasn't what we wanted, but playing really good here now that the tournament is rolled around, and fingers crossed they keep that up and move on and advance here. So shout out to the WVU baseball team indeed, who's had an incredible season. And, we'll continue to talk about them if they have any further updates here, as we'll be doing more live streams here in the near future to not only talk WVU football recruiting, but also there's going to be some WVU basketball transfer portal updates coming in the near future. So we'll keep you up to date on that as well, guys. Appreciate you guys tuning into this one. Be sure, try Magic Mind, guys. Promise you won't regret it, and get it right now while you can get it with a discount from us here at the Country Roads webcast there at magicmind.com/CRWAPR, and use that code CRWAPR at checkout to get that 48% off the subscription or 20% off the one-time purchase. Promise you will enjoy that, and hope you guys have enjoyed this show as well. Be back to chat with you guys in the near future about some WVU football and WVU basketball updates, as those will be coming here in the near future, both in the recruiting side of things and the portal side of things. And of course, roster updates coming in the very near future on the football side as the new guys have arrived on campus. We'll have some roster updates out to you guys in short order. But that's all I got for this one. Appreciate you guys. As always, I'm Jordan Cruz. And until next time, let's go Mountaineers.